Pleased to have with us this morning Representative Erin Grall, District 54. She is in the House majority, the Republican Party. And Representative Grall, good to have you on the program. How are you?
Good morning. Great to be here with you this morning. Doing well.
Thanks very much for House Bill 265. I know all about it, but I want you to kind of set the stage for our listeners what this very important bill would do.
So this bill would require an abortion provider to get the consent of a parent before performing an abortion on a minor child. And when I bring that up to people, they're usually shocked that that's not already required, since we require parental consent for a minor to take aspirin at school, to go on a field trip, to get a tattoo, to undergo any other medical procedure. So that's the crux of the bill is really making sure that parents are providing their consent in this life and death decision that a minor is going to make.
Give us the status of the bill. Where is it in the process?
So in the House, we passed the bill out of the House last year, and the Senate was not able to move it through to the floor. And so this year, I've been through one committee, was assigned to one committee in the House, and am prepared to go to the floor when we receive the bill from the Senate. The Senate has moved the bill through 3 policy committees, and it's actually the questions have been asked on the floor of the Senate, and it is being debated and voted on today.
What are the debates? I want to go ahead and get in front of our listeners. Who is articulating what kind of argument?
I think that the primary opposition, at least from my perspective, has been it's about a woman's right regardless of the woman's age, and that there's certainly a underlying argument that usually it could be a close family member that has somehow caused the pregnancy that requires the abortion, in my opponent's view. And so there's an allowance for a judicial bypass if that is in fact the case, if the child has, if there's any concern that the parent contributed to the pregnancy. However, that's just an overwhelmingly small number of the abortions provided. Nearly 1,500 minors obtained abortions in Florida last year.
You know, it's interesting to me. I have long been a champion of this cause, and thank you very much for keeping at it, because I've openly opined, why is it that in this country we protect eagles in a nest inside an egg more than a human being? When it's all said and done, aren't we really going to be heading to that specific question?
I think that's it. I think that it's how do we place anything else above a human being, and we do it regularly. I see. I do not, but I think our society does, and they try and put additional rights into animals while we continue to degrade the value of human life. And it's such a massive decision that any woman makes, let alone a girl, that to not have the advice and counsel of her parent during that time, I think is just detrimental to her overall, the way that she'll continue to move through the world after that decision.
Joining me on the program is Representative Erin Grall. She's from District 54. That's Indian River, parts of St. Lucie. And my guest for one more segment, Erin, just stay with me. We're going to take a quick check of weather and traffic, come back, talk about House Bill 1059, another bill that needs to be on your radar. It's Tuesday, February the 4th, and it's The Morning Show with Preston Scott.
Show with Preston Scott.
Yeah, baby.
On News Radio 100.7 WFLA.
11 minutes after the hour, 56 in the capital, 60 along the Gulf Coast, 25 in my beloved Green Bay, Wisconsin, just because I love the Packers. And in Hornell, New York, it is 43, and you are at your high temperature, basically, for the day. In Hornell, New York, if you want your temperature, Preston at iHeartRadio.com. It's as simple as that. With me on the program from District 54 in the state legislature is Representative Erin Grall. Erin, House Bill 1059. A few weeks ago, we had Mary Mayhew, Secretary for Florida Healthcare Administration, on the program. We talked for a while, and she brought up the patient Bill of Rights and kind of just expanding on what she wants to do with healthcare in the state. Tell me about the Parents' Bill of Rights.
So the Parents' Bill of Rights was really born out of conversations I have had with so many constituents, and people from around the state have started to contact me as well, as I've found myself in this space where I'm really trying to champion the family. And because our government interferes with the relationship between a parent and child on far too many occasions, whether or not it's in our education system, in our with our law enforcement, with healthcare. We have all these exceptions for when other people of influence or power with a title can interact with our children without parents even knowing. And I think that parents are the best educator, are the first educator for their child, and we just need to be very clear that theirs is a fundamental right and establish some consistent mechanisms for informing parents when the government or anyone else with that type of influence interacts with their child, so that they can be involved in that time in that child's life, in those important decisions or in bad decisions that maybe children have made, but that should have the counsel of their parent. We shouldn't be trying to keep them away from that relationship. And if you really look at our laws, we've done that overwhelmingly over the decades.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Representative Grall, but here's now my devil's advocate question. Mm-hmm. How do you make parents care? It's one of the biggest challenges that I think culturally we have faced in the last 2 decades, is increasingly parents are more and more comfortable allowing the government, the schools, the counselors at the schools, the teachers to take on the role of guiding their child. And too many parents don't want to do it.
Well, I think overwhelmingly parents care. I think they do. I think that the complexity of working through our bureaucracies, whether or not it's a school district, even the school that your child is at, and just the administrative procedures, whether or not it's a judicial system, all of those have become obstacles, and they're difficult to navigate, and we have disempowered parents through that process, giving the bureaucrats a lot more control over our children. And I think parents they're stretched. They're trying to make ends meet for their family and provide, and they do rely on the advice of the people involved in these systems, but the systems have become so powerful and so strong, they don't view the parents as the primary educator anymore. So I do think parents care, and I think overwhelmingly we have people who want to be great parents, but sometimes the systems can really interfere with their best intentions and wear them down, frankly. And that's what I've seen, parents who don't know where to turn next and feel like they've exhausted all real remedies and are still left feeling a disconnect between their child and their family.
All right, real quickly, House Bill 1059, the one we were just discussing, does it come in for a landing or does it crash and burn somewhere along the way?
I think this is the year for it to come in for a landing. It will be up in our second committee this week in the House. It's being heard today in Senate Judiciary, and there's a lot of eyes on it to move it to the finish line. House
Bill 265, does it come in for a landing and get on the governor's desk?
I believe it does, hopefully within the next 2.5 weeks.
Representative Grall, thanks for the time this morning. Hopefully we'll have you back sometime.
Great. Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
You do the same. Representative Erin Grall, District 54, my guest on The Morning Show with Preston Scott.